Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's daf, which is SUKKAH Mem Gimel. Perhaps let's go back to the beginning of the sugya on Mem Beis Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah spoke about lulav not being taken on Shabbos, except if it's the first day of Sukkot, then netilas lulav is doiches Shabbos. But otherwise, we refrain from taking lulav on Shabbos. Says the Gemara 3 lines from the bottom. Amai, what's the concern? Tiltu ba'amahu. What's the worst thing? You're shaking a branch, eitzim. It's muktzah. V'litchi Shabbos. That should be doiches Shabbos. You don't suspend a mitzvah min haTorah on account of muktzah. Omar Rabbah, no, there is a real concern of malacha resulting from taking lulav on Shabbos. Perhaps he'll take the lulav in his hand in order to bring it to an expert, to learn how to shake, to learn the bracha. Is it al netilas lulav? Is it al netilas esrog? You have to know. And in his haste, he might actually carry it through the street and be over iser. So on account of that concern, we don't allow netilas lulav on Shabbos. That's the very same reason why we don't blow a shofar. When Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos, he might take it through the street to an expert to learn the tricks. The same reason by Megillah. We don't read Megillah on Shabbos because of this concern. If that's the case, then why is netilas lulav doiches Shabbos on the first day of Sukkot? Why do we make an exception? The answer is, you may recall back in the Mishnah we spoke about the fact that initially they would deliver their lulavim to the Harabayis before Shabbos, so that they wouldn't have to carry it on Shabbos. Then on Shabbos itself they fought over the lulavim, and the ensuing commotion resulted in SUKKAH. Chacham made a takana. No longer will the lulav be brought to the Beis HaMikdash. You take it in your house. So since it was that takana, that it should be taken at home, they'll be mindful of the fact that they're meant to carry the lulav out in the street. Why? Why did they have to make the takana? Because of the commotion that resulted, because they brought the lulav to the Harabayis before Shabbos, because you can't carry. It's pretty clear, you can't carry. And therefore, there's no need to be concerned about taking lulav on that first day of Sukkot. So therefore, if it's the first day of Sukkot, it can be doiches Shabbos. But otherwise, you don't take a lulav on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, okay, that explains, after takana, we had that statement made. Everybody's aware of the fact you don't carry lulav through the street. What happened before the takana? Why wasn't there a concern that perhaps it might be inadvertently carried through the street? Says more rather reasons like this. First day of Sukkot is an exception, it stands higher. It's a more chashav mitzvah than the rest of the days. Why? Because on the first day of Sukkot, there's a mitzvah min haTorah to take the lulav, whether in the Mikdash or out. Even begvulin, there's a mitzvah min haTorah on that first day. From the second day onward, it's only a mitzvah in the Mikdash and not outside. So therefore, on Yom Rishon, where it's a high-standing mitzvah, it's a mitzvah chashuva, which is applicable in the Mikdash and throughout the entire world. Chacham said, we're not going to suspend that chashuv of mitzvah on account of a gzera that he might carry through the street. We'll leave it intact. They didn't feel it was appropriate to negate that type of mitzvah, which is such a high-level mitzvah. Ella, Rishon, the Isay min haTorah b'gvulin, the first day of Sukkot, where there's a mitzvah to take a lulav, even outside the Mikdash. So it's so chashuv. Well, Rabban decided not to tinker with it. Don't suspend that mitzvah on account of a gzera. As opposed to after the first day, Hanoch, the subsequent days of Sukkot, the last min haTorah b'gvulin, where there is no mitzvah to take a lulav outside the Mikdash. So it's a sort of second tier mitzvah. Gazru Rabban felt that they can go ahead and suspend that mitzvah on account of the chashash that he might carry through the street. If that's the case, ha'idnon nami, nowadays as well, why don't we say that the lulav is doicha Shabbos on the first day? Anan lo yad'inon b'kibud yarcha, because we're not aware about the exact setup of the calendar. How to be kiveh, how to set forth the yarcha, the moon, the new month. We have a suffix, veka d'yoma. We're not sure exactly if this is the first day of Sukkot, and therefore it doesn't justify negating Shabbos and negating Gzeros and suspending the Gzera of Rabbah. Meaning, if it's a Vadai mitzvah, we say, okay, do it regardless. But otherwise, it doesn't justify, it doesn't override the concern that it might lead to malacha. In Hudiyadi, Bikibudi Yarcha Litchu, what about those living in Eretz Yisrael? Even after the Churban HaMikdash, they still follow the same system. This was way back. Even after the Churban, they would still follow, they would establish the Chadoshim based on the sighting of the new moons. They knew exactly. They were familiar with the calendar system. And they had an accurate cheshbon. They knew exactly when Yom Tov was. And that's the case. Litchu, why don't they take the lulav on the first day when it falls out on Shabbos? And the Chanami says, well, you're 100% right. If they know, then they know. Taisus points out that at the end of the Gemara, all the way at the end of today's daf, B'ezras Hashem, the Gemara will actually retract that even in Eretz Yisrael, they no longer take the lulav on the first day that falls out on Shabbos. We don't want to differentiate, create groups amongst Klal Yisrael. You do take, you don't take. We leave it as a blanket rule that nowadays, since in some locations, for some portions of Klal Yisrael, there's a suffix, we are mavatal taking lulav on the first day if it is Shabbos. In any case, at this point, the Gemara figured, actually, even after the Churban, they would continue taking that lulav on the first day it falls out on Shabbos, because they were knowledgeable about the kibud yarcha. They knew exactly when Yom Tov falls out. And we'll prove it, because look, the Tanan Chada, we have one Mishnah which says, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag, what happens on the first day of Sukkot, Shechal Yes B'Shabbos? Kol ha'am moilichen es lulavein la'arbayis. This was the Mishnah in the beginning of the parak, which we learned yesterday. First day of Sukkot, which falls out on Shabbos, everybody delivers their lulav to the Harabayis, to the Beis HaMikdash. So here they're bringing it to the Beis HaMikdash. But Tanan Idach, we have another Mishnah back on Daf Mem Aleph, which says LeBeis HaKnesses. They deliver it before Shabbos to the shul. What happened to the Beis HaMikdash? Apparently there is no Beis HaMikdash. And apparently even after the Churban, they would still shake lulav on the first day of Sukkot, which falls out on Shabbos. Isn't that a raya? It's a solid proof to our point that even after the Churban, they continued that practice, provided that accurate knowledge that today was Yom Tov. Shema Mina. This proves our point. We have two Mishnahs. Kan bezman shebeis hamikdash kaim. One Mishnah speaking when there is a Beis HaMikdash, they deliver to the Harabayis. Kan bezman she'ein hamikdash kaim. The other Mishnah speaks about delivering to the shul, speaking that there is no Beis HaMikdash kaim. Shema Mina. This proves our point that even after the Mikdash was destroyed, they would continue that practice of shaking that lulav on the first day of Sukkot, which falls out on Shabbos, provided that accurate knowledge of the calendar system. Okay, so bottom line is, the lulav is doicha Shabbos on the first day of Yom Tov, provided you are certain that today is Yom Tov. And the reason why there is no gzera, the gzera that applies throughout Sukkot, which is you might carry through the street in your haste and excitement, why doesn't that apply to the first day? Their answer is because it's a chashav, a mitzvah, which is applicable all throughout the world, whether in the Mikdash or without. So that mitzvah is too chashav to be mavatal on account of a gzera. But the mitzvah of netilas lulav throughout all the other days of Sukkot, which only applies in the Beis HaMikdash, that the Chachamim felt is something they can suspend on account of this concern that it might lead to a malacha. Rashi says Chachamim have that ability to cancel a mitzvah, provided it's a passive cancellation. You're not doing an isser against the Torah, you're just not doing the mitzvah. And that they have the ability to do. If there's a real concern, then it might lead to confusion at the malacha. Continues the Gemara. Let's go back to basics. How do we even know that you shake the lulav outside the mikdash? The isay min haTorah begvulim minolam. How do you know that? That min haTorah, there's a mitzvah netilas lulav out of the mikdash on the first day of Sukkot. The Sanya. Bryce says lokachtem lochem bayim harishon. We learn lokachtem. Every single person has to take a lulav. It's not something that Bezdin does on account of all. No, lokachtem shtei lekicha b'yad kol echad ve'echad. Everybody has to take their own lulav. Lochem, we learn misha lochem. It has to be yours. You have to own that lulav. Lo yitzis hashol v'sagazel as opposed to borrowed or stolen. Lokachtem lochem bayim harishon. What do we learn from bayim? Bafilu b'Shabbos. You mean to take the lulav even on Shabbos. Bayim harishon teaches us afilu begvulin. Take it on the first day wherever you are, irrelevant of location and circumstance. From here we learn that there's a mitzvah netilas lulav on the first day of Sukkot, even outside the mikdash. From the extra hay of harishon we learn malamed she'ein doiche elo yom tov harishon bavad. Lulav is only doiche the first day of Yom Tov. That's a chashav of mitzvah which is applicable in and out of the mikdash. That has the ability to be doiche Shabbos. Okay, so that's the bryce. Let's review the bryce. Omar. So what did we say? It's coming to tell you to allow you until it's lulav on Shabbos. Now, what's the concern with Shabbos that the Torah would be coming to allow? Michti, let's take a look. Tiltal ba'almuhu. What are you doing? You're moving around a branch. Okay, so maybe it's muktzah. It's Kral Mishri Tiltal. If that makes sense, that the pasuk is coming to tell you know what? I know that in a couple thousand years the Chacham are going to introduce a Isra Muktzah. I want to tell you that there's no concern. You can shekech lulav on Shabbos. Doesn't make sense. Torah never speaks about Exer the Rabbanan down the line in the future. So what's the point of the pasuk allowing you on Shabbos? Torah is speaking about a real malacha to allow you preparation. You can do the preparatory acts, the accessories, the achana. You can chop that lulav off the tree, tie it together with the hadas and arava, if necessary. And that could be done even on Shabbos, provided it's for the first day of Sukkot, which is a chashav mitzvah. And that's what the pasuk is trying to be matter. In accordance with the following Tana, who allows you to do a malacha in preparation for mitzvahs lulav, the sanya. Lulav v'chol machshir of dechnas haShabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says all the machshirei lulav, all the accessories, the enablers, and then you need to prepare your lulav is allowed to be done even on Shabbos. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, how does he know that? Amakro b'yayim, our pasuk, ukachtem lechem b'yayim, v'afilu b'Shabbos. Now Rabbanan hold that you can never cut it lulav off the tree on Shabbos. Machshir mitzvah not doich on Shabbos. V'Rabbanan hay b'yayim avdi. So what do they do with b'yayim? It's not coming to allow machshirei mitzvah. They needed to teach us the following halacha. A very simple halacha. When do you take lulav? When do you shake lulav? B'yayim v'loy b'layla. During daytime, not at night. Ulkachtem lechem b'yayim harishon. That's a zman netilas lulav. Rabbi Yehuda b'yayim v'loy b'layla minali. How does Rabbi Yehuda know that halacha? B'yayim is no longer available. He already used it to teach you. You can chop the lulav off the tree on Shabbos. So I didn't know this man netilas lulav is by day and not at night. Nafkali misefet dekra. He learns it from the second part of the pasuk, which is Lokachtem lechem bayim harishon, etc., etc., and concludes Usmachtem lifnei Hashem lekechem shivas yomim. Yomim v'loy leilis. During daytime, not at night. V'Rabbanan. Why weren't the Rabbanan happy with that? Yomim is daytime. V'Rabbanan ima hosam, if only for that. Hava Amina, I would say, Leila fi Yomim, Yomim is SUKKAH. I would say, you know what the definition of Yomim is? Days and nights, just like by SUKKAH. By SUKKAH is Teshu Shivas Yomim. Not just daytime. It's one continuous mitzvah throughout all 7 days. Through the days and through the nights. And I would say, just as by SUKKAH, Yomim means days and nights. Ma'alahalan Yomim afilu Leilas, just like by SUKKAH. Yomim is referring to days and nights. Afkan, likewise by lulav, I would say. Afkanami. Yamim Afilu Leilos. Perhaps Shivas Yamim by Lulav is also referring to night as well. I wouldn't know to exclude nights. Ulokachtem Chem Bayayim is coming to identify the Zman mitzvah, which is specifically by day. Now you're working with a premise that the mitzvah sukkah includes days and nights. How do you know that? With sukkah gufa minalam. How do you know that sukkah applies to nights as well? The Tana Rabbanon. So it's sort of a double, triple tier limud here. We're working with a pasuk by lulav to tell you that it's dafka days, because otherwise I would learn from sukkah that yamim is including nights. How do I know by sukkah? And the Gemara will provide a source for sukkah as well, sort of a chain reaction. With sukkah guf minal, the Tana Rabbanon we learned in the brayso. Sukkah is teishu shivas yamim. We learned that yamim va'afilu leilos. It includes nights as well. There's a mitzvah, there's a chiv of yeshiva sukkah all throughout, 7 days and 7 nights. Okay, you're proposing that days means days and nights. Or maybe perhaps it's not so. Days are days, excluding the nights. How would you know that sukkah incorporates nights as well? In which case you need a pasuk by lulav to tell you, no, lulav is dafka by day, because otherwise I would learn it from sukkah. How do you even know that sukkah includes nights? Says the Gemara V'dinu. In fact, I can perhaps suggest a limud, which would indicate that sukkah is specifically to daytime, not nighttime. V'dinu nemar kan yamim, v'nemar belulav yamim. It's a sort of a circular reasoning here. By sukkah we have the word yamim, teish v'shivas yamim, and by lulav we also have yamim, smachtem, v'nashe elkeichem shivas yamim. Mala halon yamim v'loy leilos, just as by lulav we just established. Days are days, excluding the nights. Why? Because it says Bayom is extra to tell you Yom is man lulav. So perhaps just as over there by lulav Mala halon yomim v'loy leilos. Kan likewise by sukkah is yomim v'loy leilos, days and not nights. So you're working with a premise. Sukkah applies to days and nights. Who says? Or perhaps take a different track, which will provide that source. Which source? To prove that a sukkah is meant to be fulfilled throughout all 7 days and nights. Nemar kan yamim. We have the word yamim by sukkah, shivas yamim. V'nemar b'miluim yamim. By the miluim, where the kahana would dwell in the mikdash, in the mishkan. Throughout all the days of the miluim, all 8 days, days and nights. The pasuk says yamim v'layla there. V'nemar b'miluim yamim. We have the word yamim by miluim. I would say mala halan yamim afilu leilos, just as by miluim, including days and nights. Kan yamim v'afilu leilos. Likewise by sukkah, yamim indicates days and nights. So this would be a source, would be a makar to apply mitzvah sukkah to daytime and nighttime. So we have a choice. We have sukkah in the middle. We have on one side lulav, which is specific to daytime. On the other side we have miluim, which includes nighttime as well. What are you going to compare it to? Let's step back a second and see who he's more similar to. Who should we compare him to? Don and davar shemitzvasa kol hayom. It makes more sense to learn a davar, a sukkah, which is mitzvasa kol hayom, which applies throughout the entire day. One must eat in the sukkah throughout the entire day. Midavar shemitzvasa kol hayom, from miluim, which likewise is an all-day mitzvah, an uninterrupted mitzvah, and therefore, just as by miluim, nights are included, sukkah as well includes the nights. As opposed to proving from lulav, which is a one-moment mitzvah, you pick up the lulav, you reads it. Doesn't compare to sukkah. And therefore, it makes more sense to derive sukkah from miluim. In which case, we see that sukkah applies to daytime and nighttime as well. Or perhaps take a different approach. Prefer lulav as a proper source for sukkah. Why? Don and davar shemitzvasa l'doros. Wouldn't you rather learn sukkah, which is an all-time mitzvah? It applies throughout all the doros. It's not just a one-time in history mitzvah. We learn that midavar shemitzvasa l'doros from lulav, which is also a mitzvah throughout all the doros. So they had that in common. And just as by lulav, it's only a daytime mitzvah, perhaps sukkah as well. As opposed to learning from Miluim, she'eino hagen l'deris. Doesn't apply throughout the deris. It was one point in history and no more. They're similar to Sukkah. Oh. Now the Gemara introduces a Gzera Shava, which is something you can't challenge. We connect Sukkah to Miluim by way of Gzera Shava. Nemar kan Teishvu. By Sukkah it says Teishvu Shivas Yomim. We have the word Teishvu. V'nemar b'Miluim Teishvu. By Miluim as well we have the word Teishvu. Pesach Oil Moed Teishvu Yomim V'Layla. Rashi brings this in Amar Aleph, about 7-8 lines from the bottom. So since in both contexts we have the word Teishvu, we say Malahalan Yomim Afilu Leila. It's just as by Miluim. It was an all-encompassing mitzvah, including days and nights. Pasuk clearly says Yomim V'Layla. Avkan, likewise over here by Sukkah, Yomim V'Afilu Leilas. Mitzvah Sukkah applies throughout the days and the nights. So the source is Miluim, which was a day and night mitzvah. We connect that to Sukkah. Now Sukkah applies to days and nights. Knowing that, perhaps the lulav as well should apply to Yomim Afilu Leilas. That's why we need the word Vayoyim Rishon. Vayoyim is Yomim V'Loi Leilas. Now the Mishnah spoke about taking the Arava. We actually learned from a pasuk. We had it a couple of days ago. Arvi Nachal. There's Lashon Rabim, one for the Lulav, one for the Migdash. They used to position the Aravas around the Beis Hamikdash, around the Mizbeach. We went to see later that they used to actually shake it and walk around with it. It was a whole procedure. Tilas Arava, Chibut Arava. According to the Chachamim, it's learned by way of Amlach Mishim Sinai. Now the Tzdukim and the Baisusim, these groups who would challenge the Chachamim, would negate anything associated with Torah Shabbat Peh, anything that wasn't clearly spelled out in Torah, had nothing to do with. So they gave him a hard time. But we, the Chachamim, those that adhere to Torah Shabbat Peh, adopted this as a mitzvah. In fact, it seems from the Gemara that there was a bracha as well, said before you did this Netilas Arava. And this took place all throughout Sukkot, as the Mishnah spoke about Arava Shiva. Right? It was something you would do throughout Sukkot, throughout all the days of Sukkot. And the Mishnah actually says that the Arava would be sometimes 6 days, sometimes 7. When would it be 7? If the 7th day of Arava, meaning the 7th day of Sukkot, falls out on Shabbos, then we say it's Deicha Shabbos. But it wasn't Deicha Shabbos any other day, only if it's the 7th day of Sukkot. Arava Shiva Ketzad. How does that work? If the 7th day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so it's Deicha Shabbos on the 7th day only. Arava B'Shvi my time at Deicha Shabbos. Why do we say it's Deicha Shabbos on the 7th day? Why aren't we concerned about that same concern that doesn't allow this fellow to take a lulav on Shabbos? Gzeira de Rabba we call it. Rabba's concerned that in his haste and excitement he might carry it through the street. The same thing with regarding that Rava. He might run to the baki. How do I shake it? What bracha do I make? So why do we allow him to shake the Arava on the 7th day, which is Shabbos? Oh, Rabbi Yehuda, you're right, there is a concern, but we have another overriding factor here. We want to publicize, we want to make that statement. We want to advertise that Arava is something you meant to do minat Torah, as opposed to the Tzdukim, the Baisusim, who negated that factor. Therefore, we make this drastic statement. We say, what's taken even on Shabbos, even though there's a concern of malacha? No. See, that highlights its importance. That shows how chashav it is. It's minat Torah. Look, they're taking it even on Shabbos. So that's the reason why Arav is Deicha Shabbos on the 7th day. Okay. If that's the case, lulav nami nitchi. Let's keep in mind that on the first day of Sukkot, there's a pasuk, which indicates you take lulav wherever you are, in the Mikdash, outside the Mikdash. It's understood, it's a spelled out pasuk. What about after the first day? So now we only have a mitzvah in the Mikdash as well, only in the Mikdash, because it says, now, it's not clearly spelled out. You could perhaps interpret usmachtem as referring to something else. Chacham had a Mesorah, this was the drasha, Torah Shabbat Peh. There's a mitzvah netilas lulav throughout all 7 days in the Mikdash. But that needed some propping up. It needs some reinforcement. You need to advertise that. to make that statement, as opposed to those who don't believe in Torah Shabbat Peh. So you have that factor here. Why isn't that enough to justify taking lulav in the Mikdash throughout all 7 days if it falls out on Shabbos? To make that statement, or at least one of those 7 days should be set aside as a day where you take the lulav even on Shabbos, to highlight the fact that even after the first day you meant to take the lulav in the Mikdash min haTorah. Yachi, says the Gemara, if the concept of pirsa, making that statement, making that publicity, overrides any malacha concerns, then lulav nami lidchi. You should take the lulav even if it's not the first day, even if it's second, third, or fourth, which falls out on Shabbos. Take that lulav in the Mikdash, of course, kedei lefarsim hashu min haTorah, to publicize, to make that statement that it's a chiv min haTorah. Says the Gemara, lulav gzira mishum derabba. Oh, says the Gemara, you're forgetting that lulav has a gzera mishum derabba. You might carry it through a street. It can result in a malacha min haTorah. At this point, the Gemara is sort of retracting. If there's a very real concern of it resulting in a isser malacha, that factor doesn't justify taking chances, even at the expense of this potential benefit of being mefarsim, it's chashivas. It doesn't justify. And therefore, by lulav, aside from the first day, for the reason we mentioned earlier, aside from that day, we're not doicha Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Hachi Rava Nami Nigzar. If that's the case, then why is a Rava different? It can result in a malacha being done. He might carry it through the street on Shabbos in his haste and excitement. Says the Gemara, by a Rava we have no concern of malacha. You know why? A Rava shluchi bezdin ma'isila. Who takes care of that Rava? Who delivers it to the Mikdash before Shabbos? The emissaries of bezdin. So it's already pre-delivered. Nobody's carrying it on Shabbos. And once it gets to the Mikdash, who tends to the Aravis? Rashi says the Kihanim take the Aravis and walk around the Mizbech, and they're zrizim, they're proficient, they're knowledgeable, they're experts. They're not running to go to the Rav to ask, to get instructions. So there's no concern of carrying through the street. At most, you have a concern of Muktzah, it's a branch. Okay, Muktzah we do away with in order to mekayim the mitzvah of Arav. As opposed to lulav, which is like koil moser, it's given to everybody to be mekayim. And your typical layman who's not so proficient with the intricate details of shaking and bracha, he might run to the Rav, to the Baki, to the expert. He might carry it through the street. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, there's no concern of malacha by a Rava called Yoimanami Litchi. Why are you limiting it to the 7th day? Let it be Deicha Shabbos anytime throughout Sukkot. Let the Chacham do away with the Muktzah concern, which is dwarfed in light of the fact that it's a mitzvah min haTorah. Let them do away with that and allow you to shake the Arav anytime throughout Sukkot on Shabbos. You know what's going to happen? You might negate lulav. You might eclipse the lulav. I'll say, look, lulav is only Deicha Shabbos on the first day of Sukkot. Arava, that's more important than lulav. You see that it sets aside Shabbos. It's Deicha Shabbos anytime throughout Sukkot. We don't want to get to that point. Says okay, so why are you setting it on the 8th, on the 7th day? You want to pick one day where Arav is Deicha Shabbos, let it be the first day of Sukkot, just like lulav. It won't be obvious that you're being Deicha Shabbos, you're being Deicha Muktzah for the sake of highlighting the importance of the Arava to be mefarsim, that it's min haTorah. Right? That's the point why we take the Arava, even though it's Muktzah, because we want to be mefarsim that it's min haTorah. So on the first day of Sukkot, it won't bring out that point. It won't make that statement. Amri, people will just say, you know what, lulav, or the kodachi, it's lulav that's Deicha Shabbos. They know lulav is Deicha Shabbos, and once you're Deicha Shabbos for lulav, okay, that Rava comes along for the ride. It won't have that same effect. So that's why we didn't pick the first day of Sukkot as the day where a Rava is Deicha Shabbos. We want to give him its own day. Okay, so then designate a different day. Not the first, so let it be the 2nd, the 3rd. Why are you waiting until the 7th? Kivan the kamapkas lamarishan. Once you took it away from the first day, ukma shvi, we established it on the 7th, which is a specific number. It's either the 1st or the 7th. So Yom Mesuyim, Rashi says. And therefore, the conclusion is that a Rava is Deicha Shabbos only on the 7th day. If that's the case, even nowadays, after the Churban, where the Nevi'im or Masakane Minak, that we continue the practice of taking a Rava, let it be Deicha Shabbos on the 7th day of Sukkot. We should continue that same practice. To point out, to make that statement, that person, that a Rava during the time of the Mikdash was a mitzvah b'nai Torah. Why don't we continue, keep that same minhag? Says the Gemara, the same like by Lulav. We're not familiar with the exact running of the calendar. We don't want to take a chance in a suffix. If it's only a suffix Yom Tov, Chacham didn't seem to think it was important enough to be Doicha Shabbos. What about those in Eretz Yisrael who are fully aware about the ongoings of the calendar? If that's the case, let them shake a Rav on the 7th day on Shabbos. Ki Asa Bar Hedya. When Bar Hedya came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, he said, Lo Yikla. You know what? It never turns out. It never comes up on Shabbos. The Bezdin always maneuvers the months so that the 7th day of a Rav doesn't fall out on Shabbos. We don't want to get involved in this discussion. We don't want to get involved in this confusion because, as the Mepharshim explained, they didn't think shaking a Rav nowadays, where it's only a minhag, justifies Chilul Shabbos. So they arrange their calendar in a way where you don't have that concern. You don't have that situation. You don't have a circumstance where the 7th day of Sukkah falls out on Shabbos. When Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael, Ma Ravin, all those Chachamim who came from Eretz Yisrael, Amri, they actually had a different opinion. They said, Ikla, v'lo dachi. Actually, it does fall out on the 7th day. Shabbos can fall out on the 7th day, v'lo dachi, and it's still not Deicha Shabbos. V'lo kasha, then we go back to the kasha. Why not? Amar Rav Yosef, you know why? We're not even sure if we're meant to take the arava manually, shake it, and walk around with it. Man leimul on the arava benatila. Who's to tell that the arava is meant to be taken and shaken? Dilma beskifa, perhaps the proper way of doing the arava in the time of the Mikdash was by skifa, positioning it in place all around the mizbeach. If that's the case, then we have no business doing it today. We don't have a mizbeach to encircle with arabis. So the whole thing's not applicable today. So it seems clear from the Mishnah later that they would be zoik if the arabis around the mizbeach. That's pashut. The question is, in addition to skifa, was there a natila as well? So the Rabbi says, no, perhaps not. And if there's no natila, then it's not applicable today. That answers the question. Why it's not Deicha Shabbos? Nothing to do today. Eisvi Abaye says Abaye to him, what do you mean? What does the Mishnah say? Lulav arava shisha v'shiva. Shaking the lulav and the arava happens either through 6 or 7 days of Sukkot. Right? That's the Mishnah. The fact that the Mishnah pairs them together does not tell you something about the way to take the aravas. My love kalulav. Now you assume that the arava is like the lulav. Ma lulav ben atila, just by lulav. You take the lulav, you shake it. Af arava ben atila. Arava as well is meant to be taken and shaken, and not just positioned around the mizbeach. Midi area. Why do you connect the two? Hakadisei. Each one has its own track, its own method. Lulav is meant to be taken and shaken. Arava to be positioned and not shaken. Esvi Abaye, once again Abaye asks, listen to the Mishnah, Anafem Hey. B'chol yom makifan sam mizbeach pamachas. Every day of Sukkot, they would walk around, they would make a kaf around the mizbeach one time. V'oisay yom sheva pam, on the 7th day of Sukkot, they would surround 7 times. Ma'ila v'arava, should not assume that the Mishnah there which discusses the aravis is speaking about carrying the aravis around the mizbeach 7 times. You see, you meant to take and shake the arava. Loi b'lulav. No, we're speaking about walking around with the lulav. The arava, you position it in place around the mizbeach, and that doesn't apply nowadays. V'amar Rav Nachman. Did Rav Nachman say, Amar Rabba Baravo, in the name of Rabba Barava? They would walk the arava around the mizbeach. Amalei, Abai responds, Hu Amalach Barava? Yeah, he holds up the Arava. I maintain that perhaps it's a lulav that was taken around the Mizbeach and not the Arava. When we learned, Rabbi Lazar Omer Berlulav, would actually shake the lulav around the Mizbeach. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nosson Amar Rav Chanina Bar Rava was the Arava, which they would hold when they walked around the Mizbeach. V'chein Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Bar Avo Bar Rava. It was holding that Rava. Holding onto the Rava that they would do the hakafes around the Mizbeach. Amalei Rava Rav Yitzchak. Rava tells Rav Yitzchak, Brei the Rabba Barachana, the son of Rabba, Bar Uriah, the son of a Talmud Chacham, Ben Torah. Either was a reference to him himself, a Ben Torah, or the son of a Talmud Chacham. Ta, come over here. I'll tell you, Milsa Ma'alisa, a very nice thing, the Hava Amar Avuch, the father, Rabba Barachana, used to say. He had the following pshat in the Mishnah. Hadasnan, the Mishnah says, every day they would circle around the Mizbeach one time, and on the seventh day of Sukkot, they would go around 7 times. That's the Mishnah. Hachi Amar Avuch. Your father, Rabbi Barachana, used to say, Mishmei der Belezer, Belulav. When the Mishnah speaks about doing hakafes, it was holding the lulav. The Arava, that would just be positioned in place around the Mizbeach. It was stationary. You wouldn't take it, you wouldn't shake it, and wouldn't walk around holding it. Esve, so he responded with a kasha. It seems like it's Rabbi Yitzchak responding to Rava. What does the Brisa say? So Tesefta. Lulav deiches haShabbos betchilase. Lulav is deiches Shabbos on the first day of Sukkot. V'Arava b'Seifer. Arava is deiches Shabbos on the 7th day of Sukkot. So you do it even on Shabbos. What do? The Brisa here will give us a detailed description of what happened, which will provide a clear indication as to how you meant to handle the Arava. Pamachas. It so happens that once, Chal Shvi Shel Arava Lis b'Shabbos, the 7th day of Sukkot, fell out on Shabbos. Ve'viu mirboyesh Shel Arava, and they delivered these tall Arava branches, Merev Shabbos, from before Shabbos, to the Beis HaMikdash. Ve'yinuchem ba'Azorah, right? It was placed in the Azorah. Ve'yikiru ben Baisusin. And the Baisusin, these troublemakers, who didn't believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh, noticed these Aravis delivered to the Mizbeach. They wanted to make trouble. But not when they took the Aravis. Ve'kav shem tachas afan. They placed them beneath the stones, knowing that the Chacham wouldn't move Muktzah. And they wouldn't have access to the Aravis on Shabbos. And they wouldn't be able to do the mitzvah. That's what happened. The next day on Shabbos, Hikiru behen Amei Aretz. The Amei Aretz weren't so learned with respect to halachas muktzah, but they sided with the Talmidei Chacham. They noticed the trick that the Baisusim did. So what did they do? Went over to the Aravis, v'shamtem metachas avanim. They took him out from beneath the stones. V'vim haKehanim, and the Kehanim took those Aravis, v'zakfam b'tzitam mizbeach, and they positioned them around the mizbeach. What's the background? What's going on here? It says the Brisa Lafish ein Baisusin moedim, because the Baisusim had a problem. They didn't agree with the Chachamim. Shechibat Arava deiches haShabbos. They're taking the Arava and shaking it. Rashi learns. Rambam sounds like chibut means thrashing and banging it. In any case, they didn't agree that this thing is a thing to do. Certainly not deiches Shabbos. So that's why they decided to make some trouble. In any case, what do we see from this Brisa? Brisa describes the process as chibut arava. Alma ben atilahi. Meant to take it and shake it and bang it. Tiyufta. It's a clear refutation on those shittas that the arava was simply meant to be positioned in place around the mizbeach rather than being taken and shaken and walked around with. Okay, so once we have that as a fact, we go back to our kasha. Arava is deiches Shabbos on the 7th day, when the Mikdash was Kaim. Well, what about nowadays? In Eretz Yisrael, where they know how to establish the months properly, they worked according to the Kiddush HaLavana, according to the sighting of the new moon. So they know with certainty today is the 7th day of Sukkot. Why don't they take the Arava on the 7th day? The point was because we don't have that opportunity. We don't have the Zakif for the Mizbeach. Well, we've just proven that the Arava is meant to be taken and shaken and walked around with. We can do that today. Kivan da'anan leidachinan, since we in Chutzlaritz who live far away, we don't have that certainty, we don't have that clarity with respect to the calendar system. We can't be Deicha Shabbos because what's this a suffix which doesn't justify Chilul Shabbos, doesn't justify Muktzah. Inu nami leidachu. We don't differentiate. All Yidden, even in Eretz Yisrael, where they have clarity, they're familiar with the setting of the calendar. They're not Deicha Shabbos. We don't want to create groups, strains in Klal Yisrael. V'yom Tov Rishon. What about Lulav on the first day of Sukkot? For us in Chutz La'aretz, it's not Deicha Shabbos because we have a suffix, and that suffix doesn't justify Chilul Shabbos Muktzah. But those in Eretz Yisrael, this was, right after the time of the Mikdash, they still had that clarity. The Bezdin was Makadosh al pi ha're'iyah, according to the sighting of the new moon. They had accurate knowledge as to the exact going on of the calendar, and they knew exactly when Yom Tov was. And according to the Gemara earlier, they can be Deicha Shabbos on the first day of Sukkot to shake that lulav. So you see that it's not all across the board. And it's Yisrael, it's Deicha Shabbos. So why by a Rava do we differentiate? And we say, no. Nowadays, we don't take a Rava on the seventh day at all, even if when it's on Shabbos. At all, even if we know that it's the seventh day of Sukkot. Says, well, you're right. We retract, we go back. We had a Havamina that the Bnei Yisrael would continue with that same practice. Would shake lulav on the first day on Shabbos? No, Amri. The Bnei Yeshiva responded, you're 100% right. L'didhu nami loidachi. After the Churban, where Yisrael got dispersed throughout the countries, and many Yidden live far away from the Beis HaMikdash, far away from Eretz Yisrael, and are unfamiliar with the exact, the calendar process, and they have to keep 2 days Yom Tov, misafik. From that point onward, all of Yisrael will no longer take the lulav on Shabbos, even if it's on the first day of Sukkot. We don't want to make agudis, Rashi says. And the same regarding a Rava. It's no longer Deicha Shabbos. Let's go over to Rashi on the top line. The two nami leidachi. Shali lasses Yisrael agudis. We don't make groups in Klal Yisrael. V'nir kishtei Torahs. It would appear like there's 2 Torahs. No. The Lidan leidachi of Shabbos. Since for us we can't do it on Shabbos, nor can they. Continues the Gemara on the first line. What about those 2 Mishnahs, which were used to prove our point that even after the Churban HaMikdash, there were some places where they would still hold on to that practice. Places where they knew with certainty that today's Yom Tov Rishon, they would take lulav even on Shabbos. We had 2 Mishnahs which proved that point. What are we going to do with that? What about the apparent contradiction between 2 Mishnahs? Let's have a refresher. The Tanchad, in one Mishnah we say, that everybody delivered their lulav to the Harabais before Shabbos. So Harabais, Migdash. It's not Idach, we have another Mishnah, the Beis HaKnesses. Before Shabbos, it delivered to where? To the Shul. Why not to the Migdash? The Gemara is assuming we're speaking Yerushalayim. And didn't we answer on that? Kam bezman shebeis hamikdash kayam. When the Beis HaMikdash was standing, they delivered to the Beis HaMikdash. Kam bezman shebeis hamikdash kayam. The other Mishnah speaks about the shul was after the destruction. There's no longer a Mikdash. They shook it on the shul, but they shook it on the first day of Sukkot, which fell out on Shabbos. So we see it's Deicha Shabbos even after the Churban. Right? That was the Havamin that we had in Amar Aleph. Well, you're wrong. It's inaccurate. Both Mishnahs are describing the same error, while the Beis HaMikdash is still standing. Yeah, then, where Yisrael lived either in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisrael, close by, where everybody would know with clarity when Yom Tov falls out. It would be Deicha Shabbos. So both Mishnahs are describing the same error in history. For the Kasha, and the answer is Kam b'Mikdash, Kam b'Gvulim. One Mishnah describes the Beis HaMikdash because that's where they were taking their lulav, in the Mikdash. Kam b'Gvulim. The other Mishnah describes the Beis HaKnesses speaking outside the Mikdash. So they brought it to the shul. They didn't have a Mikdash close by. That's all, very simple. But of course, after the Churban, since there are those living far away where they have a suffix as to the identity of that day, whether or not it's really Yom Tov, whether or not justifies Muktzah and Chilul Shabbos, and therefore they cannot take the lulav, nor can they take the arava. We establish that as a set practice for all of Klal Yisrael, irrelevant of the location. Okay, so what were today's highlights? We learned that on the first day of Sukkot, lulav is Zeicha Shabbos, but otherwise not. Why not? Gzeira de Rabbah. Because of his haste and excitement. He might take it to the bucky, through the street. There's a concern that it might result in a malach. First day is different because it's so chashav. The mitzvah applies in English and outside. They don't want to suspend that mitzvah. But the following days, second onward, they will mevatel the mitzvah b'sheva al tas, as Rashi explains. Regarding arava, that's only doich on the seventh day. In arava, there's no concern of carrying through the street. There's only concern of muktzah, and that was set aside to be mekayim that mitzvah, to be mefarsim that it's min haTorah. Why dafka on the seventh day? We want to give it its own unique day. We want to make that statement, that person, to undo the tzdukim and baisusim's position, which the Gemara describes later with that story, where they went and they gave the Chama a hard time. They hid the arava under the tiles. So in order to undo that, to challenge them, to make that statement, they allowed it to be done even on Shabbos, provided that it's the seventh day of Sukkot, which was a set day for that purpose. They didn't want to allow Dichei Shabbos throughout all the days of Sukkot, in order not to downgrade the value, to devaluate the mitzvah of lulav, which is not Dichei Shabbos, unless it's the first day. So that's how it remained. Lulav is Dichei Shabbos on the first day, arava only on the last day. At the end of the day, we say that it's not Doich anywhere because we don't have that clarity as far as the establishment of the calendar. We keep 2 days Yom Tov. Even nowadays, Taisus makes this point that the truth is nowadays we don't really have a suffix. Hillel HaZaken already established a set calendar, which is very accurate. So we know with certainty when exactly Yom Tov falls out. But, as the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, we still hold on to the 2-day system to Yom Tov Sheni, because the Gemara explains that it could come a time where the Goyim will allow us to study, to have the clarity when it comes to as far as establishing the calendar. So we keep that minig of Aseni B'Yadenu. So nowadays we treat it as though it's a suffix. Okay, so it's irrelevant whether it's mamash a suffix or we treat it like a suffix. And since we have that suffix element, we don't allow anything on Shabbos, because if it's only a suffix mitzvah, it doesn't justify Chilul Shabbos. Now, when do we take a lulav? Only b'yamim. Although Sukkah applies to day and night, as we learned from Miluim. So Miluim is a catalyst. It says Yomim v'Layla. That draws over to Sukkah. Sukkah's teish v'shiva some Yomim filu leilas. But lulav not. By Yom Rishon is Yomim v'Loy leilas. All the best and Hatzlacha Rabbah to you.